Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Elise, and this is my mystical bookshelf. And today I have a Sarah Dessen book. Yay! I'm continuing my Sarah Dessen series. Woo! But yeah, I forgot about this book because I listened to it and I made an Instagram post about it when it happened. And I was looking through my Instagram because I'm going to start trying to make more posts because I've been being really bad about that recently. But so yeah, this book is, I don't have my phone because I'm using it to record, so I'm going to insert a picture of it for this one. But it is The Moon and More, and I looked at my Goodreads and I was like, it said I didn't read it. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll give it a shot. Because I thought I had read every Sarah Dessen book. I had been very sure about that. But apparently I was very unsure. Because apparently I hadn't read it. But, so yeah. It is about Emmeline, and she is working at her family. I don't think her family owns it, but she's working at a hotel for the summer. And it's mainly about her journey as a young woman, and she's with her boyfriend Luke currently, and Emmeline is sort of, she's a very interesting female lead. I really liked her a lot. I loved Emmeline. She was very smart and witty, and I loved her so much. And I think the best part of The Moon and More was getting to know Emmeline and getting to see her grow as a character as the book goes on, because her family dynamic is very interesting and different, and it's a refreshing take on the Sarah Dessen model in terms of like the family dynamic. Her mom is very normal. Her dad had left them when she was like 4 or 5, I think is what she said. And her mom got remarried, and her stepfather is really nice, and he's really loving and caring. And he also has a daughter who's older than Emmeline, who's like 21, I think, something like that. And it's just nice to see this blended family model, because I know sometimes there can be tension with families when the mom or the dad or the main parent of the child gets remarried. I know sometimes it can be a point of contention for everybody, but this is a really nice portrayal of a blended family, and Emmeline has a really good relationship with her stepfather and a really good relationship with her mom, and her sister is really nice. But Emmeline still feels like she's lost. Like, she doesn't really know who she is. I think she's like 16 or 17. And she's working at this hotel over the summer, and she wants to get in touch more with her dad because she feels like she wants to know her dad more, and she feels like she has the right to know who he is. And she starts corresponding with him in letters and stuff. So I thought that part was interesting too. And Emmeline's dad is an interesting character because I think he cares about Emmeline, like, obviously, because he's her dad, but I think he has a hard time, like, connecting with her on the level that she wants to connect with him. And it's really interesting to see her struggling, trying to connect with her dad, because her dad also got remarried and has another child, and that child is her half-brother. And her half-brother, he's super sweet. I loved him. He was so cute. He was one of the best side characters in a Sarah Dessen book that I have ever read personally. And I can't remember his name right now, because obviously that's something that is very character forward of me as a person. I can't remember character names in books to save my life unless I write them down. And I need to start taking notes more when I read. That's the moral of the story. But yeah, Emmeline learns about her father's son and learns that he's her brother, and they start hanging out, and because he comes to visit with his dad and Emmeline's dad, and so they start working together at the hotel. And Emmeline, I think she breaks up with Luke at some point in this book, and Luke, he's pretty normal for a boyfriend in a Sarah Dessen novel. He's not super memorable or anything like that. I liked him enough, though. He wasn't weird or off-putting in any way. He was pretty normal for a 16, 17-year-old boy, and I think he treated Emmeline with respect. But I don't know, him and Emmeline just didn't have a lot of chemistry, and I think she broke up with him because she's trying to find herself, and she just doesn't understand. Like, she reconciles with it because, or she has trouble reconciling with it because Luke is so normal, he's so handsome, he's so nice, but she's just like, I'm just not into it. I'm just not that into it. And so she breaks up with him. And I can't remember when she breaks up with him. I feel like it's like a quarter of the way through the book, maybe. And it's a very normal breakup. It's a nice normal breakup. It's nothing like super angsty or anything like that. And then Emmeline meets this other boy, man, I guess. He's older than her. I think he's 20, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he's 20. His name's Theo. And Emmeline is a very small town girl. That's kind of like the biggest vibe in this book, is that Emmeline is very small town. She's very smart. But she feels like everyone thinks she has these expectations, I guess, put on her, is what I'm trying to articulate. She has these expectations put on her by everyone that she's supposed to be going to a great college, and her dad promises to send her to this great college, and she's so smart. She's gonna have no trouble getting into it, and she just feels like everyone treats her like she's a small town girl with these big dreams, when really I don't think she has those big dreams. I think she's content with living in this small beach town named Colby, and I think she's content with not wanting to be the best of the best. And that's okay. It's okay sometimes just to be not mediocre, I guess, but to be content with not being the best at everything, or being the best at one thing, or just making your own path and not worrying about expectations put on you. And she learns that going through seeing her dad interact with her little half-brother, because her little brother has all these expectations put on him, and he's only like 7. And I'm like, I feel for you, kid. Like, that's rough. That'd be hard. Because her dad is, like, really anal with her brother. And he's always like, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And you have to do all these word puzzles and all these after-school projects and stuff. And he's just like, I just want to be a little kid. And I'm like, totally, dude. I feel you. Like, you just want to be a child. And I'm like, totally understand that. Because what kid doesn't want to be a kid? Like, he just wants to do stupid stuff that boys do, and her dad's not giving him, like, room to be a boy doing stupid things. Like, he has these weird expectations on her little brother, and he doesn't have any of these expectations on Emmeline for some reason. And, like, long story short, he doesn't even end up paying for Emmeline's tuition for whatever fancy pants school that he had promised her. And that is something that Emmeline reckons with, because her dad is very frustrating to me. He's a frustrating character. Like, I don't like him that much. He makes it seem like he wants this really big relationship with Emmeline and wants to connect with her on this level and wants to be there for her, wants to, like, give her what she wants and give her these big aspirations and dreams and stuff. And then in the end, he just pulls the rug out from under her and says, oh, I can't do this. There's something financial that came up, and I can't do that. I can't pay for your tuition now. So I think Emmeline has to get a scholarship or something. But that was, like, such a big moment for Emmeline, is realizing that she was talking to her dad through email for a long time. and wanting to meet him for a long time, because I don't think they met in person until he came on a road trip with her little brother, and she didn't know that he existed, I don't think. And so that's their relationship dynamic is really sweet. Like, they love hanging out with one another, and I think it's so cute. And it's cool to see that Emmeline enjoys hanging out with her little brother. That's the sibling dynamics in this book are very sweet and touching, and that was like one of the best parts of me was that little side plot with Emmeline and her little brother hanging out and being friends, and even though they live very different lives, they really love each other and they want a relationship with one another. And Emmeline was really hoping for that with her dad, and it just didn't happen. Her dad's not capable of giving her the relationship that she so desperately wants with him. And it just kind of made me sad. It made me sad for Emmeline because she talks to her mom about her dad too, and her mom feels the same way. Like, that's why they broke up. That's why they got divorced. That's because he just couldn't handle it. I don't even remember if they were actually married. I think he kind of just got Emmeline's mom pregnant and left. I think that's what happened. Because she was like, he has all these big dreams and aspirations, and he wants to be everything that you want him to be, but he's just not capable of doing it. And, like, her mom was let down big time by her dad, and Emmeline understands that now when her dad lets her down big time by not paying for her schooling. And I think she has this idea of her dad in her head, and she realizes that he's never going to be that dad. And then she realizes that her stepdad is more her dad than her actual dad. And I think that's great that she has him, the stepfather, as this loving figure who is actually there for her, who wants to help her. And I'm glad that she has her mom, her level-headed, beautiful, wonderful mom. And then she just has to realize she has to have an arm's length relationship with her actual father, with her birth father. And I think that was the hardest thing for her to understand, is like, he's never going to be what I want him to be. He's never going to fulfill any of his promises that he tells me. And they just kind of have a friendly relationship in the end, I think. She ends up having a better relationship with her brother than her own father. So I think that says something, especially. And but like I said, her brother has all these expectations put on him too. And I think Emmeline kind of tells her dad, like, you need to lay off of this little boy because he just wants to be a normal little kid. And he doesn't want to do all these crazy word games and puzzles and brain teasers all the time and, like, go to a fancy prep school or anything like that. It feels like Emmeline's dad kind of just pushes his expectations on people, but he really has no expectations for himself, which I think is very sad. And so that was like kind of like the B plot of this Sarah Dessen book. I think the main plot was Emmeline figuring out who she is, and she meets Leo, and Leo is 20, I think, or 21, something like that. And he is kind of pretentious, I would say. I didn't really like him when he was with Emmeline because he made it seem like Emmeline wasn't living up to her full potential, even though Emmeline is just trying to figure herself out. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking Emmeline is 18. I think it'd be kind of weird if she wasn't. So I think she's either 17 or 18. I'm pretty sure she's 18. But because the 3-year age difference, that makes more sense. But anyway, yeah, so he kind of treats Emmeline like she's super smart, but he does it in a way that's kind of condescending. And that's what I didn't like about him the most, is that he saw something in Emmeline that Emmeline didn't see in herself, I guess, but he made it sound like he was putting her down constantly. Like, oh, you're from this small town. Oh, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. You're such a smart girl. Why don't you put yourself out there more? Why don't you... It's just like all these weird expectations put on her by these other men in her life. And it's just like, can you just back off? How about that? I really didn't like Theo. He was kind of a gross character. And I'm really glad that he and her didn't end up together, because it was like, he was a very big snob, like a super big snob, and I really didn't appreciate him. He was definitely not the kind of man that Emmeline needs. And Emmeline didn't end up with anybody in this book, and I think that was the whole point. And I gave it 3 stars because, I don't know, I mean, I just didn't enjoy it a whole lot, but I enjoyed the lesson that Sarah was providing by saying Emmeline at the end being by herself and stuff, because sometimes I think it's important for a young woman to be alone and to not be with someone, and I think that's something that Sarah should explore more in her new books, because a lot of her books, it's like this heroine is finding herself, and then she finds someone, and then they end up together, and it's like happily ever after. But they're so young. Like, she writes about like high schoolers and stuff, so it's like kind of unrealistic that they end up with this person and they have this long relationship together. It just doesn't seem realistic most of the time. But this one definitely seemed realistic. I loved that Emmeline didn't end up with Theo or Luke, and that Luke was more cool about it than Theo. Like, Theo was kind of an ass in the end, and I feel like he got mad at Emmeline for some reason, and I think that's why they broke up, because she's like, why do you have all these expectations on me when you're like 20 or 21 and you don't even have your life together? It seemed hypocritical to me that Theo was like so criticizing of Emmeline when really he wasn't criticizing himself. And it felt like projecting. It really felt like he was projecting his feelings on Emmeline. And he was just a really big douchebag, like, for lack of a better word. He was not the nicest character. I just didn't really like him that much. And I'm really glad that Emmeline saw through his facade, because she felt like she had to be someone different with him. And I'm like, you shouldn't feel that way with someone that you like, or someone that you want to be your boyfriend or something. And it was an interesting perspective. And I'm glad that Emmeline ended up by herself in the end, because sometimes that's what you need. You need to navigate life a little bit by yourself and really get to know yourself. And if you feel so inclined, pray about it and ask God to give you guidance and stuff. And I think that's a great message to give young women, is to just be okay with being by yourself and learning who you are, and then you can find someone who can match what you have learned, and find someone to compliment you and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a pretty good Sarah Dessen book, even though, I don't know, maybe I'll change my rating, because I feel like objectively it wasn't like the best written Sarah Dessen book ever, and I think kind of that's what made me give it a 3-star. Not necessarily the characters, because the characters were great. And so, I don't know. I don't know where I'll put it in my ranking. It might be low, it might not be low. I think it might be in the middle. But, so yeah, this is another book in my Sarah Dessen series. So I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, friends!